So I've got this 2882 here to be weathered. This is the newest run, and this belongs to Nick's Trains. But I wanted to show you something. Take a look at this Brunswick green or dark green locomotive enamel, and then compare it to this older S1 here. This is really more of the proper color, so I don't know what happened with Lionel regarding this. I mean, this is really bright green. So I'm going to do my best to darken it a little bit and get it a little closer to the actual dark green locomotive enamel. And so I just wanted to show you this because I don't know why Lionel is doing two Brunswick greens. So I showed this to Ryan Kunkel as well in an email, and he's looking into it to see what happened because he said they never changed their color swatch for dark green locomotive enamel. So just an interesting point. Since this engine is going to be weathered, it shouldn't, I don't think it's going to be the end of the world. I think it'll still look great when it's done. But for those who prefer their engines pristine, it's kind of weird. Alright, so as you can see, I've started to darken the locomotive here, and it's starting to look a little bit dirty. We've got a textured look here, and I do that very simply by taking a paintbrush, which is right under here, and I just dab. So once I get some paint on there, I just dab it on there to give it more of a textured look. This is just an undercoat, so there's a little bit more lines and streaking on it right now than what will be at the end. But that gives you, doing an undercoat like that gives you more of a textured look rather than just, hitting it with spray paint. So, and as you can see here, we have a grainy look on the boiler to start with from a lot of the soot and stuff like that. And down here, we don't have all that graininess. I've smoothed it out some. You can see on the ash pan we got some. But down by the drivers, I've smoothed it out some, and that's because we're going to add a lot more of the browns and whites down here for ash and runoff and stuff like that. So now, if I do a comparison, you can see if I hold up this S1 boiler right next to it, we're pretty close. This one's definitely a bit shiny because it's not weathered, but we're pretty close on how dark the green should be. We're matching it a lot better. So now let's flip around the LA. Let's do that without hitting the S1. Okay. Or S2. I'm saying S1. That's an S2 steamer. Check this out. Check out how green that is. I'm about to darken this side now, but you can see the difference. Definitely see the difference. Look at that. It's like night and day. All right. So I've finished darkening the locomotive, and as you can see, it looks a lot better just with darkening it. So now we're going to add all of the accents to it, and that smoke box is looking pretty good right there. We have to darken the stack some and do some rainwater runoff on it, but it's starting to come together. It's starting to look like an old Malay. So here it is, all finished up. And you can see the Brunswick green is darkened and weathered, and then we have all of the other accents and colors. So just want to point out that the cell phone plus the sunlight is blowing out the colors a little bit more than they actually are. So once I get this on some track and use inside lighting, you'll see the colors a little bit better. You'll see what it looks like in real life a little bit better. This is a little bit blown out right now. So here it is. I brought it into the kitchen because the lighting is much better in here. But it's all finished up. And it's darkened and weathered appropriately. And all these details pop out so much more. It really looks good. So we'll start at the front here. You can see we've got some rust on the coupler right here and on the chain. and just, you know, pretty dirty front. I still have to clean it. I'll wipe away that headlight. And we got some soot on the smoke box front here, which is cool, and on the bell. And over here we have runoff coming down from the stack on the smoke box. And then we have some very subtle streaking all along the boiler. So I don't do zebra stripes. I just do very, very subtle dry brush streaking. A little more prominent streak here by the safety valves. And then over here by the turret, we got a lot more runoff. And over by the dynamo as well. And then here's one more pan of all that detail and all the weathering on the drivers and the pumps and stuff like that, and the piping. So you can see there's a little bit of rust on the pipes, not much, just a little bit of discoloration over here too with all this piping here. And then over by the ash pan, we have a lot of ash that's fallen onto the drivers, and then we have some accents by the overfire jets. And then over here too, some more ash. So, and then on the tender, we've got a pretty good amount of streaking from rainwater. So, not much, you know, I mean, it's a good amount of streaking, but it's not the zebra stripes. And then this tender frame has been rusted a little bit just to show some age and usage. Let's turn it a little bit. Here's the doghouse, by the way. It's just dirty, a little bit of dirt on the windows. Here's the back. Same thing, just a little bit of runoff on the rear of the tender and a little rust discoloration down here. And then the other side of the tender is pretty much the same. And here we have the fireman's side of the locomotive. And the overfire jets are pointed straight down on this side, so the accents are also painted straight down. And more ash on the drivers. And then just more very subtle rust on the piping. Come on over here to the front. I like the fact that this locomotive has the bell cord, and it also has the whistle cord. It's a nice detail, and it has the whistle steam smoke effect. So I think it came out really well. So the next thing we're going to do now is I'm going to clean it a little bit. I got to clean the drivers because there is paint on all the drive wheels, so I have to use turpentine and a Q-tip to get all that off so that the engine will run right. And clean the headlight, and then that's it. I will run it this evening. So cool. I'm going to pull back and give you a shot of the whole thing. Really cool. All right, so here it is. Looking good, and we're going to pull some coal with it in just a minute. This belongs to Nick from Nick's Trains, and we both subscribe to each other, and he sent me a few steam locomotives to weather now. The last one being the Buffalo, Rochester, and Pittsburgh Mallet. And this one was a lot of fun to do. So this is a Norfolk and Western prototype. It's a Y3, and the Pennsy reclassified them as HH1s. And these were used mainly in drag freight service and in hump yard service and transfer runs. They basically replaced the CC2s. So they didn't do too well in mainline service with the Pennsy because they weren't fast. So the J1s were really the mainline freight locomotive for the Pennsy, and then these were used as helpers and also in the hump yards and stuff like that. So, but it was an awesome locomotive. Lionel did put one sound feature in here that I'm going to discuss really quickly, and the reason why is because I don't think anybody's discussed it, and I'm not really sure if everybody knows what the feature is and what it did in real life. But it's a sounds feature where this locomotive will start out with that 8 chuffs per revolution, just like any other simple articulated steam locomotive, let's say like a Challenger or an Allegheny or a Big Boy. You have that offbeat 8 chuffs per revolution that goes in and out of sync. That's because both sets of drivers on a simple locomotive are independent of each other, and they are basically 2 engines built into one. But this is a Mallet steam locomotive, and Mallets are not designed that way. So underneath the hood, they're a little bit different. You have two sets of cylinders. This one's much larger than this one, and the steam is under high pressure when the smaller cylinder, and it's recycled into this forward cylinder, which is a low pressure steam cylinder, before it's exhausted out of the stack. So because of that, you only get 4 chuffs per revolution on a Mallet steam locomotive. However, this is a compound Mallet, and it has an extra feature in real life where if the engineer needed to get extra traction, let's say starting up a heavy load or pushing up a mountain, there was a valve called the simple valve, and the engineer would pull that valve, and then both sets of drivers would operate like a simple articulated steam locomotive. So basically you'd have 2 engines in one, and you'd get that offbeat 8 chuffs per revolution. And then once the engineer had enough traction, he'd put it back into the compound mode, like a Mallet. So, and then you'd be back to 4 chuffs per revolution. Now, Lionel does it automatic. So when the engine starts up, it starts up at 8 chuffs per revolution, and then when it reaches a certain speed step, you'll hear 4 chuffs per revolution, which is a pretty cool feature. However, the engineers used it when they needed it, and when the locomotive was being serviced or not operating under a load, there was no need to use the simple valve. So I thought it would be much better to use a soft key for that feature. So rather than just have it automatic, it would be nice if it was user playable, and then you as the modeler could hit the button and then get the 8 chuffs, and then hit the button again and go back to 4. So anyway, that's what the feature is, and that's what its purpose was in real life, was to gain extra traction as needed. So, but I just wanted to point that out because I don't think anybody has on YouTube. And so with that being said, we're going to run this around now. So thanks, guys.
Dispatcher, going to the register room to sign out. Out.
Well, there you have it, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. And if you're interested in having your steam locomotives or diesels or rolling stock weathered, please contact me via the email in the description. All right. Have a good one, guys. Thanks very much, and happy railroading. Bye-bye.